So, Sean, thank you so much for joining our Chinese Film Club. It's our honor to invite your film for our opening section for 2024.
Well, it's my honor to be selected to your film club. I'm happy that my film could meet the audiences in week.
Thank you very much. And today we have a small Q&A section. And yeah, if you don't mind, I do have a question which has been prepared. So maybe you can help and the audience out. Firstly, could you please introduce the concept of the film itself? How do you elaborate the different ideas behind this film, and what's your motivation and where the idea is from?
Thank you. I think most of the audiences have seen the film. My film at the film is pretty intricate because there are like different layers in the film and many characters belong to different social classes and cultural backgrounds. And for me as a director, the main message of film, I think I regard it as with three layers in it. So the first layer is regarding to the industrial and economic chain itself. How the globalization system injured by the Chinese economy and the consumption power is operative, and how different people from different social classes and cultural backgrounds are stuck in the very in the role that the system point them to, no matter as a boss, as a labor, as the consumer. So that's the economic layer of the film. But like especially after the second half of the film, I began to turn the narrative and expression from economic layer to a more cultural layer, because the type of product that I film is not just like something made by foreign material and be made in a place that that this product won't be sold in, but because it's cultural products like sculptures, souvenirs, or model itself. This stuff has been constructed by human beings with many cultural connotations. That's why it's more interesting than just like a normal product. When you see like how a cultural product with a certain cultural or like cultural cliches from a certain context, it's been completely made by people out of that context, and been sold later back to that context. So this cultural layer relates to cultural appropriation, massive reproduction, which deconstruct the meaning of culture itself, or even like how two different cultures mingle with each other in a quite bizarre way. That's, I think, the second layer. But also, the third layer, I would like to also go deeper from the cultural layer to a geopolitical layer, because the film represents not only the power of China economically, but also geopolitically, because through this manufacturing miracle that started like in early 2000 in China has accumulated a certain kind of power, and to a certain point, this power has changed qualitatively from just economic and manufacturing power to something geopolitical. That's why you can see that those marbles of souvenirs the harbor that these marble souvenirs exported and imported, actually owned by Chinese nation-state company. Sorry, Chinese state-owned company, Costco. I think the idea is to panoramically present how economically, culturally, and geopolitically this globalization system works. But also, unexpectedly, this already become nowadays from our point of view now, has become like a retrospective, more or less, because that chapter has been formally almost flat away because of COVID, because of the very obvious economic decline of China. Yeah, so now when we see it again nowadays, it naturally has some more nostalgic feeling.
Yeah, because actually that was leading to my next question. When do you start filming this project? Because I was about to ask, oh, is it during the pandemic period? Because the film was premiered in 2021 at Rotterdam. No, at ITVA. Yeah. So I was wonder if you have been filming through the pandemic period, and how do you see the transaction through this period of time up till now?
Yeah. So the brief progression, the brief process of film is the production of film is. I started to do the research in May of 2018.
Oh, 18 already.
Yeah, because that was several months after the finish of my first documentary film, which is a much more realistic and character-driven film.
Yeah.
But through this process,
Lady in the Harbor.
Yeah, that's called Lady of the Harbor.
Oh, okay.
Lady of the Harbor. It's a film mainly about how a Chinese woman in Greece organized immature volunteer team consists of Chinese migrants help Syrian refugees in 2015 and 2016. Compared to that, the new film that I envisioned after I finished the first one shall be something more visualized and cognitive. So during the filming of the first one, I had a very strong impression of the spectacle of the marble quarry, which is owned by one of the members of the volunteer team in Greece. So he took me to that quarry without a very clear intention, but that impression stays in my mind for a very long time until it's popped up in my mind again when I began to think about what's the next subject. So from 2018, I began to do the research. It's usually the situation is me, myself, or just with one another person calling together to with all the important stations along this economic chain. And later it turned out that this circulation of material products consumption does exist between Greece and China, and there might be it could be an interesting consumption to rely on for my new film. So after like around 1 year research, and after I confirmed the productiveness at the factories that I can film, we began to do the formal production in 2019, in the spring of it. And then approximately through months, like maybe in total like more than 70 shooting days, we finished most of the production. And then we began to select the footage, which actually coincidentally happened in almost the same time with the appearance of COVID.
I see.
So most of the post-production happened during the pandemic. And I think the part that's been influenced the most for the post-production is the editing part. Because the original idea was to edit with a French editor, which cannot happen personally because of COVID. Yeah, so it takes really much longer time and energy for us to communicate remotely, but later it turns out to be quite difficult. So I began to continue to edit myself for a while until 2 hours version has been made. And then there's a Chinese editor who's also a documentary director, an experimental film director. We cooperated for actually several months, and in the end, it's actually in the very end, it's me again that finished the picture.
I see.
So the process is really quite complicated and much longer than we expected.
That's quite an interesting journey, because actually in the film you also compassed with quite a variety of the group of the protagonists, such as the Greek twins, the Chinese sculptor, and the factory owner and the consumer and tourism through the whole chain of line. Could you please share a little bit about how do you structure doing the editing? Because sometimes we know within a film it's quite hard to combine, and especially you mentioned the film itself also fulfilled with three different layers from the micro perspective. So could you please share the?
Yeah, sure. Well, as this film is initiated with a certain concept to follow these materials movement between Greece and China. So the most basic structure of this narrative has been decided by the objective phenomenon. So we have known very well, even during filming, that the order of the story will be like from the very beginning when the marble is exploded out from the marble quarry, and in the very end it will finish in the very typical middle class home, where the consumers takes it back to China. But I think the most important decision we make relates to storytelling for that film during editing is that we decided to build up a parallel montage correlation between the main economic chain with the story, or like different layers of the twins. Because the twins during filming, we have already know very clearly that the twins are completely different with other characters, because all the rest, they just appear temporarily and they will disappear and won't show up again because they stuck in their own rules and space in this streamline of globalization. But for the twins, as they don't have the direct relation with no matter the marble industry or the sculpture industry or the souvenir industry, but their relation with this main economic chain is indirect, but also metaphorically. So that's how I envision the appearance of the function, or like the role of the twins. So during filming, during editing, we decided to cut the twins' story into different layers, like because they are acting as very a variety of roles in between Greece and China. Right?
Yeah.
So some of the roles seem more normal, and some of them more like strange. Let's say strange. So we let the audiences gradually go deeper to the deeper layer of the twins, together in the same rhythm with the logistics of the marble and its transformed product.
Yeah.
So that's the basic thing. But the difficult part is how to balance. First of all, to balance between the economic chain and the twin story, but also to balance like each character's own personal story, and especially the emotional part of it, the explicit part of it, with the abstraction of the whole structure. It's a pretty difficult work, actually. So it takes much more time than we expected.
I see, because the whole film actually is quite observational through the whole process, but there was also a few elements or the frame through the whole film that we find out it's quite intimate, that you had a connection with the character. For example, there was one thing while you interviewed the girl from the factory, and I know what's the motivation behind that. Why at that moment you decide, okay, you want to have the closer connection towards to the character.
Yeah. Actually, for every important characters appear in the film, we all have an interview with them. And in those interviews, there's many deeper layers of their life or personal, emotional life been recorded. But we decided to take most of them away. But we decide what we decided as well is to leave that moment when I have a battle with the girls relates to like or worry about her health, and we would like to leave or the mask to her, but she didn't realize there's an important. Yeah, we left that in that we put that scene on the timeline, especially when the film has reached to like almost like 2/3 of it. Because during editing we feel that first of all because this film is pretty observational, it's not even observational. I feel it's quite it's strange or alienated. Because we like the main principle for us is to capture the moment of characters being alienated in this economic system. But on the other side, we want to find out the human traits, the humanity on objects. So naturally, we deliberately keep distance with the characters. That's intentional. But until when we film in the Sweden factory, we find out that compared to differing from what we found during research. Coincidentally, because we were there during the summer vacation, and there's much more kids there, and they directly help their parents to do the work, because that's also one of the busiest time to deliver the order to Europe.
Oh, but it's illegal there, or
for the kids. Actually, I think that there's a lot of gray zone actually, because theoretically they're not adult. They're doing something pretty heavy. Some of them will do it just like excuratory. What's the word?
Excuratory?
Yeah, out of school during leisure time.
Yeah.
But there are also other people, other kids do more work. But actually, in reality, they're working for the parents, not the stranger. Right? They're not employed or exploited by a stranger. And the main point for them to contribute is because all of the salary relies on the quantity of objects that
has been produced. Each of them. Oh,
for
wow.
one family, because most of all the workers actually are organized in a unit of family, because the factory owners tends to employ couples because they are more stable. They won't be as mobile as a single guy.
Okay.
So that's why there's so many kids in the house, in the factory, because if not, they will just stay with their grandparents in their home. So which will create another social problem.
Yeah.
That's like one of the most massive social problem. So it's a dilemma that you really need to choose which choice is less bad, let's say, between being away from the parents, grow with the grandparents without any care, or like as a kid grow up in a factory. And for that case, to improve your family economic situation, you might need to contribute a little bit. And also, actually, that's also what I've heard and learned in Netherlands. That I constantly saw middle school kids helping people to do things in the supermarket. They're with uniform, right? So, of course, the working condition for this situation is way better than. Yeah, I mean,
the concept.
Yeah, there's a gray zone, and for me, there's one of the. I think this case is one of the others that could could be indicative of the certain kind of ambiguity and complexity that I would like to build up in the film. I don't want to judge. There's a lot of gray zone between black and white.
Yeah. That can be quite obviously seen through the film. But there's also another question towards to the creative part, because compared with Lady of Harbor, as also you mentioned before, it's more the realism film. This one, somehow, the cinematography and the sound design and even the point that you have been using is quite smooth combination and transformational through the whole sequence. And did you do that intentionally? And or do you see as part of your career developments from the debut feature length documentary to the second work? How do you combine those elements together?
I see. I think my film for the making of my first film, Lady of the Harbor, is mainly made without a very clear awareness of my own aesthetics.
Oh.
Because it was made, it began when I was still studying for my first master in China. And I didn't have enough knowledge and especially instruction about contemporary documentaries. But as I already began to film, I also in the same time began to watch more documentaries from other countries. And I was deeply influenced by these completely new things that I encountered with in that period. And later, I gradually been influenced by a lot of documentaries, like from Austria, from Germany, from Italy, and I find that there's a lot of possibilities for documentary to be poetic, to be lyrical, or to be personal, or to be with very strong certain aesthetics. And so, for my second film, after I made the first one, I did have a very strong ambition to make a more visualized one, and also relates to the subject. I feel that this kind of census system that relies on restraint, very accurate composition, and also a sense of black humor behind this restraint, is something I think, first of all, pertains to the subject, but also it's also from my own personality, and I'm still in the progress of exploring myself as a film author. I find like there's some how to say idiosyncrasy in my personality that are quite relevant to some of the films that entertain me a lot. I would like to follow those steps with appropriate subject to build up my own subject. And that's why for Marble Travelogue, we rely on a quite stable and smooth cinematography a lot. We've done a lot to portray themes and characters in a quite alienated way. For example, we deliberately choose the perpendicular angle always to the main character or the main object to dissolve the perspective. And this is actually already a vested statistical choice in contemporary art or in contemporary photography.
Did you usually film it yourself, or do you cooperate with the cinema photographer together?
I'm also one of the cinematographers. I think for the finished version, I'm the one that took the shots on the timeline the most. But also, I really cooperated with a Chinese cinematographer who is also a documentary director called Xiao Xiao. He contributed a lot to me because, his background is contemporary photography. And during the very beginning of the film, he recommended a lot of very important, like lens, for example, which can provide a certain kind of effect, which is actually very crucial to build up this certain aesthetics. And also, he also joined most of the filming in China. And in Greece, we have a small team, local team. And the cinematographer I cooperated with the most, he's from Barcelona. He's based in Athens.
I see.
We do counts. Also, through this process, I have learned a lot from Xiao Xiao and Carlos. And now I think that it's after this process, I feel that okay, I can also, I would say, I can also handle this certain kind of logical cinematography better.
Nice. That leads to my next question. Do you already have the plan for the next project? Are you still going to film me in Greece, or are you choosing some other continent right now?
I don't think that I will. I don't think that I will make a film still between Greece and China
Okay.
to complete my
The trilogy, maybe.
East Mediterranean trilogy.
Yeah.
That will happen. But I'm making, I'm developing a film, a documentary film again
Okay.
in another Mediterranean country, Italy.
Okay.
And
Good.
I travel to Italy almost every month right now to continue the research. It will be another, let's say, anthropological film about a special city with very high proportion of migrants from different countries, especially from China.
Okay.
So there's a coherency between the theme of my last two films and this one. But there's also some variation, like this time I rely on the characters' own arc much more than Marble Travelogue.
Okay, good to know. And hopefully, in the future, we can present the film at our festival as well.
Of course. And also along the journey, every time I fly above Bavaria.
Well, then next time you should definitely visit us in person.
Oh yeah, sure. I can jump.
Cool. Thank you very much, Sean. And it's our great pleasure today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.